There is a $45 billion industry that depends on you never learning what I'm about to show you. Every spring, roughly 75% of American homeowners walk into a garden center and buy bottles, sprays, and granules designed to kill the weeds in their yards. We have been doing it for decades. The weeds come, we spray. They come back, we spray again. And the companies that sell those bottles make another $9 billion in the United States alone. But 70 miles north of Florence, in the stone villages of the Garfagnana Valley, there is a community of nearly 28,000 people who have been growing food on the same terraced plots for more than 5 centuries without buying a single bottle of synthetic weed killer. Not one. And their gardens do not just look tidy, they look effortless. Their vegetable rows are clean. Their lemon trees are open at the base. Their olive groves are walked through, not fought through. I stood in one of those gardens a couple of summers ago, staring at a row of artichokes with not a single dandelion creeping up between them. And I thought, what have these people figured out that the rest of us are still paying to avoid learning? Today, I'm going to break down exactly what old Italian gardeners do differently, step by step, so you can start using it in your own backyard this season. And stay until the end because the last technique I will share involves nothing more than an old wool blanket. And it is the one thing that made me feel genuinely foolish for not thinking of it 20 years ago. Let me give you some context, because this is not just a gardening story. This is a story about an industry built to keep you reaching for the bottle, and a tradition that quietly opted out 5 centuries ago. The modern herbicide industry traces back to the 1940s. The same chemical companies that supplied the war effort needed new markets after World War II, and they found one in your lawn. 2.4-D came first in 1946, atrazine in the 1950s, glyphosate in 1974. And here's the part that should make you pause. The business model was never about solving your weed problem permanently. It was about managing it just enough that you come back next spring and buy more. That is not conspiracy. That is economics. So for 80 years, we have been locked into a cycle of spray, watch them die, watch new ones come up, spray again. Meanwhile, the old families of Tuscany were standing in their gardens shaking their heads because they had already figured out something the rest of the agricultural world is only now starting to prove with peer-reviewed science. You do not beat weeds by killing them. You beat weeds by covering the soil before weeds can start. Let me show you how it works, and I will start with the part that surprised me the most. The story that cracked this wide open for me is the story of a man named Pietro Bonelli. And if you have never heard his name, that is going to change, because what he proved on a hillside in northern Tuscany rewrote how I think about weeds. Pietro grew up on a terraced farm above the village of Castelnuovo de Garfagnana. His family had worked the same 6 stone terraces for 9 generations. He left school at 12. No tractor, no agronomy degree, no internet. Just hand tools and the methods passed down from his fat grandmother. Between 2009 and 2011, Pietro lost more than half his summer crop 3 years in a row to weeds. The hoeing took 10 hours a day, and the weeds always came back faster. Then something happened that changed everything. An elderly neighbor named Adriana gave him a stack of old hemp cloths that had once held grain at the village mill. She said, "Cover the soil. Do not turn it. Just cover it." That spring, Pietro covered 3 terraces and left 3 uncovered. Same vegetables, same compost, same water. Only one variable changed. By August, the difference was something he said he will never forget. The covered terraces had almost no weeds. Not 10%, not 20%, almost none. The uncovered terraces were so overgrown he could not see the rows. You could see a knife line straight down the hillside where the cloth ended and the bare soil began. Identical plants 3 feet apart, one set thriving, the other choked. Pietro wanted to know why, and here is where this story becomes extraordinary. This farmer, with a 5th grade education, started writing letters to the agricultural office in Lucca. They sent him old texts from the University of Pisa, going back to the 1800s. For 4 winters, Pietro devoured monastery garden manuals, regional studies on hemp and wool fiber, and translations from France and Japan on natural soil cover. What he discovered was staggering. Weeds are not invaders. They are opportunists. Almost every common garden weed, crabgrass, chickweed, bindweed, purslane, produces seeds that need one thing to germinate: light striking bare soil. They sit dormant in the top half-inch of earth, sometimes for decades, waiting for sunlight to hit them. When the sun touches them, they wake up. When it does not, they sleep forever. And here's the part that will change how you think about every weed in your garden. The cloth does not kill weeds. It does not poison them. It simply removes the one signal they need to begin. Bare soil is the weed's only door. Read that sentence again, because it rewrites everything you thought you knew about weed control. This is not folklore. This is not wishful thinking. Within 14 days of laying the cloth, a weed-choked bed can go silent. Pietro shared his terraced data with researchers at the University of Pisa in 2014. By 2022, similar trials were running at the University of Bologna and 3 German horticultural institutes. Peer-reviewed work in agronomy for sustainable development confirms that natural fiber mulches reduce weed emergence by over 90%, while increasing soil microbial activity. The science has caught up to what the old Italians understood through 500 years of observation. The soil is not a battleground. The soil is a sleeping seed bank, and the cloth is what keeps it sleeping. So here is your first actionable step, and it is the foundation. Everything else builds on it. Before you lay anything down, do not till. Do not turn the soil. Tilling is the single most destructive thing most gardeners do, because it brings buried weed seeds, seeds that have been sleeping for years, straight to the surface where the sun can reach them. Instead, mow your existing weeds flat to the ground with shears or a string trimmer. Water the bed deeply, then walk away for 2 days. The old Italians call this preparare il letto, preparing the bed. You are not killing the weeds, you are inviting them to release their grip on the soil before you cover them. I started doing this 3 years ago, and the difference in my beds was visible by the 2nd season. Now, this next piece is where the Italian approach starts to look radically different from anything you see in a conventional garden. Most American gardeners think of mulch as one thing, a single layer of bark or straw thrown on top. Italians use a dual membrane, and the logic is elegant. First layer, plain cardboard from any shipping box. Tear off all tape and labels and lay it flat across the bed, overlapping every seam by at least 4 inches. This is your light blocker. It will smother existing roots in 3 to 6 weeks. Second layer, a heavy natural cloth on top. Burlap of 10 ounces or higher works. Hemp cloth works better. Wool blankets work best. Stake the corners with stones or iron pins. Then cut surgical slits, small X-shaped openings, no bigger than your fist, wherever you want to plant. Drop your transplants directly through the slit into the soil below. The bed stays 99% covered. The weeds get no door. Now the Italians understand something about gardens that took me decades to learn, and it flipped my approach on its head. A bed is never finished being covered. Cloth is the first cover. Plants are the second. As your tomatoes and peppers grow, their canopy should fill the gaps so completely that even when the cloth eventually breaks down, the leaves themselves are now blocking the sun. Plant closer than the seed packet tells you. For tomatoes, 18 inches apart instead of 24. For peppers, 12 inches apart. Tuck low ground covers like sweet alyssum or creeping thyme along the edges. By midsummer, you should not be able to see a single bare patch of soil anywhere in the bed. A garden that is covered top to bottom by living things or breathing cloth is a garden that has fired its weeding crew permanently. This next habit is the one that feels the most old-fashioned, and that is precisely why it works. Every morning, walk your beds for 10 minutes. You are not weeding, you are inspecting. You are looking for cloth that has shifted in the wind, for seams that have separated, for the rare weed that has found a slit and slipped through. When you spot one, pull it before it flowers. One weed allowed to set seed becomes 10,000 weeds next spring. 2 minutes on a Monday saves you 4 hours in July. Now, this next technique is one of my favorites because it is clever in a way that makes you smile once you understand the logic. Instead of fighting the weed seed bank, the Italians cook it. In late June, when the sun is at its peak, lay a dark cloth, black burlap or a heavy old wool blanket across any bed you plan to plant in fall. Weight the edges. Leave it for 6 to 8 weeks. Underneath, the soil temperature climbs above 130 degrees Fahrenheit. That heat sterilizes the top inch of soil, killing dormant weed seeds, fungal pathogens, and root fragments without a single chemical. By September, you peel back the cloth, and the bed underneath is reset. You did not spray anything. You did not till anything. You did not pull anything. You let the sun do the work. If you are finding value in this and you want more deep dives into how traditional cultures protect their gardens, hit subscribe. I have a lot more coming. Now let us keep going, because we are getting to the part that changed everything for me. For the times when a stubborn weed pushes through a slit or a seam, the Italians keep one simple recipe. Dilute clove essential oil, 1 tablespoon per cup of white vinegar, and soak a small strip of cloth in the mixture. Lay the strip directly over the offending weed. Within 48 hours, the eugenol in the clove oil desiccates the leaf tissue and the weed dies down to the root. I want to be straight with you. This does not poison the soil. It does not kill seeds. It is a spot treatment, not a cure. This is part of a system, not a standalone product. And that is the fundamental difference between the Italian approach and what the herbicide industry wants you to believe. Let me walk you through some patterns I used to follow religiously that the Italian approach completely reframes. And there is no judgment here because I did every single one of these for longer than I care to admit. The first pattern is pulling weeds the moment you see them. Pulling disturbs the soil and brings new seeds to the surface. The Italians cover instead. The second pattern is rototilling every spring. Tilling looks like progress, but it wakes up every dormant seed in the top 6 inches. The third pattern is leaving bare soil between rows because it looks tidy. Bare soil is not tidy. It is an open invitation. The fourth pattern, and this is the big one, is treating weeds and soil health as 2 separate problems. They are the same conversation. Weeds thrive on disturbed, bare soil. Plants thrive on covered, living soil. When you cover the soil, you build the system, and the weed problem quietly disappears from underneath. Now, here is something I learned from an old farming family in Garfagnana that I have never seen mentioned in any gardening book, any YouTube channel, or any extension office publication. When the Italians need a long-lasting cloth for the base of fruit trees and grapevines, they do not buy anything. They go to the nearest sheep farm and ask for an old wool blanket or simply the dirty, matted fleece scraps the shepherd cannot sell. They use old wool blankets. That is it. That is the whole technique. This works for 2 reasons. First, the lanolin in raw wool repels slugs and snails, the very pests that thrive under most mulches. Second, wool decomposes slowly over 12 to 18 months, releasing nitrogen, sulfur, and potassium directly into the root zone. The protection arrives when the plant needs it most and dissolves into fertilizer exactly when the plant is ready to feed. No plastic, no waste, no chemicals, no purchase, just an old wool blanket. I started doing this 3 seasons ago at the base of my fig and lemon. Before that, I lost hours every month pulling grass from the trunks. The wool cost me nothing. The conventional landscape fabric would have cost $40 to $60 per tree and leaked microplastics into my soil for a decade. The Italian way cost nothing and worked better. That is the kind of quiet, practical wisdom that does not sell products, does not generate advertising revenue, and does not make headlines, but saves your garden 1 square meter at a time. And here is the thing that ties all of this together, the thing the old Italians understand in their bones that the rest of us are slowly relearning. There is an Italian word that runs through every aspect of their gardens, like a river through a valley: sprezzatura. It does not translate cleanly into English, but the closest meaning is something like the art of making mastery look effortless, of doing something so well for so long that it appears to require no work at all. It is not laziness, it is partnership. When you spray a herbicide, you are overriding the system. The Italians do not fight the soil. They cover it and let it rest. They build the bed. They lay the cloth. They cut the slits. They walk the rows. They invite the soil to do what soil does when no one bothers it, which is grow plants and forget about weeds. It has been working on the same terraces for the same families for over 5 centuries, while the rest of us have been buying bottles and hoeing hope. So here is what I want you to take away from this. Stop tilling. Lay cardboard before cloth. Use heavy natural fiber on top. Plant close enough that the canopy closes. Walk the beds every morning. Solarize in summer. And when you need it, treat stubborn spots with a clove and vinegar strip. Try the old wool blanket at the base of one tree this season. It costs nothing. It takes 10 minutes. And once you walk past that tree in August and see clean soil, no weeds, and a trunk that is finally thriving, you will wonder why anyone ever convinced us there was a better way inside a bottle. If any of this changed how you think about your garden, leave a comment and tell me what you are going to try first. I read every single one. And if you found this fascinating, hit subscribe for more stories like this. I have deep dives coming on how traditional cultures around the world approach everything from soil to seed. Trust me, there are more secrets like this waiting to be uncovered. Thanks for spending time with me today. I will see you in the next one.